This is literally the CIA begging Trump publicly to fucking get a ceasefire negotiation out there. Okay? The only reason why mainstream media keeps reporting on how good the Iranian predicament is for Iran is literally because his generals have given up. The CIA has given up. The entire intelligence community has basically given up talking to Trump directly. So that's why they're going to the public. This is what it is. This is what's happening.
As President Trump prepares to leave for China in just a few hours, this morning he says the fragile ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran is on life support.
I would say the ceasefire is on massive life support, where the doctor walks in and says, "Sir, your loved one has approximately a 1% chance of living."
The president clearly frustrated, swiftly rejecting an Iranian response to the U.S. framework that was aimed at setting ground rules for deeper negotiations.
After reading a piece of garbage they sent us, I didn't even finish reading it.
Iranian state media reporting the country's counteroffer included lifting U.S. sanctions, paying reparations to Iran, and ceding control over the Strait of Hormuz. Meanwhile, Iran is still not committing to any changes to its nuclear program. The country's top negotiator insisting there is no alternative to the proposal, and warning the administration that the longer they drag their feet, the more American taxpayers will pay for it. With the war in its 11th week and the Strait of Hormuz still virtually
Galabaf, also known as Goat Labaf at posting. Holy shit.
standstill, Americans are feeling the squeeze. Gas prices are up $1.55 since the war began, now hovering around $4.50 a gallon. And a new poll shows a majority of Americans, some 63%, say their household's personal financial situation has taken a hit from those rising prices at the pump. The president now considering suspending the federal gas tax, which could lower prices some 18 cents per gallon.
It's a small percentage, but it's still money.
But President Trump will need the help of Congress to do that. Republican Senate Majority Leader John Thune says in the past he's not been a fan of the idea. But if President Trump wants to make the argument, I'm sure everybody will give him a chance and hear him out. And this morning, momentum on Capitol Hill appears to be slowly growing.
Why wouldn't we take the opportunity to give working people some relief?
People are having a hard time driving to work because they can't afford gas. Give the American people a break.
Meanwhile, some Democrats argue it would only be a short-term fix.
I think the best way we could lower the cost of gasoline right now would be for Donald Trump to back off on this war that he has started in the Middle East.
So it's unclear where exactly these talks go from here. President Trump says he will not set a new deadline for Iran to make a deal. He's also not ruling out future military attacks on Iran, George.
And Rich, we saw some erratic presidential behavior yesterday. The president used a profanity to describe the White House at an event, and then he went on that strange social media spree into the morning.
Yeah, this stretched late into the night, into the early morning, George. The president posting or reposting on social media more than 50 times by our count, and nearly all of these posts focused on false claims or conspiracy theories. The president at one point responding to someone calling on the DOJ to make more arrests, just as he reshared a post with an unfounded conspiracy theory calling on former President Barack Obama to be arrested.
By the way, I looked into the Chinese mayor a little bit, the Chinese mayor saga, and it is fucking hilarious because it once again proves exactly what I was talking about with respect to like Israel gets to do anything it wants and no one else can touch it. Okay? Like Israel is a unique country. This Chinese mayor was just This Chinese mayor in Arcadia, Chinese American mayor in Arcadia, was forced to register as a foreign agent because she was writing articles that were pro-China. Yeah, the California mayor from China, the Arcadia mayor. But we'll get into it a little bit further. We'll dive into it a little bit further. There's more information, obviously, but basically something that virtually every fucking pro-Israel politician has done a millionfold, okay? But of course, that's a little different.
Posts attacked his perceived political enemies, including Hillary Clinton and James Comey, George.
And of course, in the past, when the president has posted these things, the Justice Department has followed up with actions. Rachel Scott, thanks very much.
All right, now to the war with Iran, which seems locked in a stalemate. So President Trump says the weeks-old ceasefire is, quote, on life support. He heads to China today. With gas prices topping $4.50 a gallon, the president told Nancy Cordes he's in favor of suspending the national gas tax. Nancy's at the White House. Nancy, good morning.
Kelly, good morning to you. When we spoke by phone, President Trump told me he thinks suspending the federal gas tax is a great idea. And Republican lawmakers immediately took him up on it after that, introducing bills in the House and Senate with a vote to come as early as next week. This move does have bipartisan support, but there are trade-offs.
With oil prices on the rise again as negotiations falter, President Trump is ready to tap the brakes on the gas tax. In a phone interview, Trump told me, quote, "We're going to take off the gas tax for a period of time, and when gas goes down, we'll let it phase back in."
I think the president is 100% right.
Within hours, Missouri Republican Josh Hawley introduced a Senate bill that would pause the 18-cent per gallon federal gas tax for 3 months, with the option to extend the pause another 3 months. Arizona Democratic Senator Mark Kelly introduced a similar bill a couple months ago.
People are having a hard time driving to work because they can't afford gas.
We asked drivers if they think a gas tax holiday does enough.
The more it decreases, the better.
If gas is $4.45 a gallon and you knock off 18 cents, that's less than 5%. So the answer is no.
The gas tax is used to fund road repairs and construction. When former President Joe Biden pitched his own 3-month pause on the tax post-COVID, the conservative Heritage Foundation called the move a gimmick that would blow a multi-billion-dollar hole in the Federal Highway Trust Fund. Even now, the top Republican in the Senate, John Thune, says the best way to meaningfully bring down gas prices is to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. But Trump rejected Iran's latest offer this weekend. He told me it was a, quote, very stupid proposal, badly written, badly delivered.
After reading that piece of garbage they sent us, I didn't even finish reading it. I said, I'm not going to waste my time reading it.
President Trump departs today for China, where he's going to sit down with President Xi Jinping. Now, China is Iran's #1 oil customer, but gas prices in China are only up about 20% since the war started, compared to 50% here, because the government there controls the price. Kelly?
All right, Nancy, thank you so much for that.
Are you aware of reports that Pakistan are allowing their bases to be used to park Iranian aircraft?
Yeah, that's right. We should actually have smoke for Pakistan as well. Which is really funny because then now you've opened up another fucking thing that Donald Trump has to discuss with Xi Jinping. Very funny. It's now considered treason if you say Iran is doing well. When the fake news says that Iranian enemy is doing well militarily against us, it's virtual treason in that it is such a false and even preposterous statement. They are aiding and abetting the enemy. All it does is give Iran false hope that when none should exist. These American cowards that are rooting against our country. Iran had 159 ships in their navy. Every single ship is now resting at the bottom of the sea. They have no navy. Their air force is gone. All technology is gone. Their leaders are no longer with us, and the country is an economic disaster. Only losers, ingrates, and fools are able to make a case against America President Donald J. Trump. What is this? Ugh. Ew. Many Pakistanis are saying Pakistan or America will target Pakistan next. Yeah, welcome to being the table, bitch. Okay. To the Pakistanis, I say welcome. Welcome. As a Turkish American, let me welcome you to being the table. Okay. Pakistan Zindabad! But also, Pakistan is the table. And when you are the table, Israel wants to blow up the table, okay? Luckily, you have nukes, which might be better for you in the long run than having American nukes in American NATO bases. Let's be real. My life for Pakistan! Pakistan is the table, but Turkey is the rug. Devastating. Devastating, but true. Now Israel hates both, though. Yeah. Here's Lindsey Graham shitting on Pakistan.
General Kane.
Sir, I've seen one report on that.
Well, is it accurate?
Sir, I think based on the variety of classification matters.
Let me just say, do you agree if it is accurate, that is sort of inconsistent with it being a peace mediator?
Sir, I wouldn't want to comment on that based on the ongoing negotiations and Pakistan's role.
Secretary Hexton, if the mediator is allowing reconnaissance aircraft of Iran to be parked in Pakistani air bases, do you think that's consistent with being a fair mediator?
I wouldn't want to get in the middle of these negotiations.
Yeah. Peace, like, dude, shut the fuck up. Dude, come on. There's literally ceasefire talks happening, dude. My boss is in China right now, bro. You're fucking the bag up. Pakistan is basically China's own Israel, okay? What the fuck are we talking about here, dude? Come on.
I do. I want to get in the middle of these negotiations. I don't trust Pakistan as far as I can throw them. If they actually do have Iranian aircraft parked in Pakistan bases to protect Iranian military assets, that tells me we should be looking maybe for somebody else to mediate. No wonder this damn thing is going nowhere. So, I appreciate all you've done. I'm very supportive of it. But when it comes to Pakistan and China, enough already. Thank you.
Day 74 of the war and the standoff between the United States and Iran continues. Of course, the politics behind that goes backwards and forwards. But from a military perspective, it's relatively simple. When a country goes to war, really goes to war with another country, it tries to attack the political center of gravity of the enemy, either to destroy that political center of gravity or to bend it to its will or to force it to do something which it wouldn't otherwise have done. And when this war started, Israel and the United States began a bombing campaign, and they conducted apparently 21,000 attacks across Iran up to the 7th of April. But it clearly didn't work. They tried to decapitate the IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, but they didn't. They tried to destroy the center of decision-making in Iran so there'd be no alternative to the Iranians but to surrender, but that didn't happen either. So attacking the political center of gravity was a failure by the 7th of April. So if you can't attack the political center of gravity, the next thing to do is to go for the military center of gravity. And what the Americans have achieved is that they were able to take out the whole of the Iranian Air Force, but Iran can still operate in the air with ballistic missiles and drones. The Americans took out the whole of the Iranian Navy, but still the Iranians are able to operate in the Strait of Hormuz with small craft and drones and robotic ships. They're still able to be a sea power of sorts. And the Americans gravely damaged the IRGC and the Iranian ground forces. But if the Americans were to land on any of the islands in the Gulf, or still less, any part of Iran itself, it's a pretty fair bet that they'd end up fighting pretty quickly. So the Americans have got plenty of facilities in the area. They've got air bases in Qatar, they've got air bases in Saudi Arabia, air bases in the UAE, all of which could be used. They've got other air bases too. They're not short of air power, nor are they short of naval power. There are no fewer than 2 carrier strike groups in the area and 2 Marine Expeditionary Units, plus a brigade of the 82nd Airborne, ready for all sorts of operations. They're not short of military power at all in the area. But that military power is essentially about 400 or 500 miles away from the Strait of Hormuz. And that's the Americans' problem. The real center of military gravity for the Iranians is the Strait of Hormuz. And although the Americans have got plenty of military hardware in the region, it's quite a long way away. So what they've tried to do with Operation Freedom, which only lasted for a day, remember, but is still on the stocks, President Trump has said maybe he'll go back to doing it. Operation Freedom was an attempt to use 6th-generation warfare, not to move into the Strait of Hormuz, but to use drones and missiles and AI and intelligence in order to pressurize anything the Iranians did while all of the ships that are trapped in the Strait of Hormuz come out. And that's the Americans' main problem. 6th-generation warfare. Maybe it'll work, maybe it wouldn't. It was only tried for a day. If the Americans were to go back to 5th-generation warfare, what they would do is they'd move their big carrier strike groups towards the Gulf, into the Gulf of Oman, and they would take control, physically take control of the Strait of Hormuz. They'd fight a battle for the Strait of Hormuz. And if they fight that battle, they would win it. But if they win it, they would also almost undoubtedly take some losses. And that would be the main problem for President Trump. This is the USS Abraham Lincoln. Very hard to imagine the Iranians could ever sink that, but they might damage it. They might be able to do something. They might be able to kill or injure some of the personnel. And that, even a damaged Abraham Lincoln, even a damaged destroyer, would actually be a political tragedy for President Trump, which you find very difficult to live with in terms of American public opinion. And so here we are back at the standoff. The Iranians obviously calculate that they can live with the material damage of this war longer than he can live, President Trump can live, with the political damage that the war is doing. And the Iranians are saying now, they say, if the Americans attack us again, we've got all sorts of surprises up our sleeve, with all sorts of things that they won't expect that we can do. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. But the fact that they're saying that is a very good example of the nature of the warfare we're into. We may be in a world of potentially sixth-generation robotic warfare, but the politics of asymmetric warfare still apply, and they apply in this.
U.S. intelligence shows Iran retains substantial missile capabilities. Dude, you know what this is, right? By the way, this is literally the CIA begging Trump publicly to fucking get a ceasefire negotiation out there. Okay? The only reason why mainstream media keeps reporting on how good the Iranian predicament is for Iran is literally because his generals have given up. The CIA has given up. The entire intelligence community has basically given up talking to Trump directly. So that's why they're going to the public. This is what it is. This is what's happening. Okay? 30 out of the 33 missile sites along the Strait of Hormuz are still operational. They're like, dude, please, what the fuck are you doing? I swear to God, we're like, I'm not going to say it. Never mind. I'm just going to stay quiet. But we are nearing very interesting times in terms of what the CIA could do if they wanted to get creative with it. It seems. I'm not, fomenting this. I'm not advocating for it. I'm simply saying that there's only so much historically that the CIA and our intelligence community has, allowed presidents to fucking, molest the money or make interesting decisions that they were not on board with. Yeah, to be fair, they've already tried it with, what's his face, the Butler guy, and it didn't work. It only made him stronger. It only made me stronger. Did you see Friedman begging NATO to stop Trump? They're losing it. Robert Kagan is going to become a communist if this continues. Okay? Robert Kagan is going to be like, I disavow everything that I've done for my entire career. I actually realized the only way to stop the United States of America is with a coalition of the willing. You are molesting the money too hard, Mr. President. In order to save capitalism, we must end capitalism. I'm Robert Kagan, the godfather of neoconservatism, and I approve of this message. Butler was a hoax, but it was the CIA and he missed is my new favorite theory. Yeah. We're going to talk about Baba Dabby in a second. I watched a video with Larry Wilkerson. He had a very different read on that Kagan article. He said he knows Kagan and that Kagan wrote that article as a challenge saying we have to do a ground invasion to save the embarrassment. Really? I mean, I trust Larry Wilkerson's take I trust Larry Wilkerson a lot more than I fucking trust Robert Kagan, but I'll still use it. I'll still use the assessment or the takeaway from many people to my advantage because I don't want war. Abi kayayı çağırıp sarılıp yerde yuvarlansana. You think Butler, if you think Butler was real, you think ears grow back. Oof. Listen, guys, I'm not, I'm never going to dispute you, okay? I don't care enough. I am so unbelievably agnostic when it comes to whether or not Butler, Pennsylvania was a real assassination attempt or it was staged or if it was the CIA or if it was Mossad or if it was BlackRock. I don't give a fuck. Believe whatever you want to believe. Okay? It's great. I believe all of the theories. Okay? You could say aliens and I'd be like, probably. I am an equal opportunity enjoyer of all conspiracy theories as it pertains to the many assassination attempts on the president. I enjoy them from afar.
Of course, the customary.
Yeah, call me Sarah Longwell the way I'm centrist on the issue of whether or not Trump's assassination was staged.
Haggling over potential Chinese purchases of American products that includes commercial jetliners and soybeans, and also proposal for a joint board of trade that would bring government oversight to a lot of the commerce between these two countries. We're also known they're expected, of course, to talk about tariffs and how to adjust them as they remain at a very high level. But again, a lot of this is also going to be dominated by what is happening in Iran. I'd remind you that China has seen a lot of high-profile leaders come to the country recently. We saw the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi met with his Chinese counterpart last week. Russian President Vladimir Putin is expected to travel to the country just days after President Trump departs. So a lot that is going on here for, global geopolitics as well. And I think when it comes down to the Iran war, what's going to be very interesting is I spoke with a lot of my sources here at the White House yesterday about the latest of, the president saying that this war, or the ceasefire rather, is on life support. I mean, it'll be interesting to see whether or not the president is going to ask for Xi Jinping to almost aid in bringing the Iranians to the table. We know that.
American media. Words you never want to hear coming from the mouths of the State Department-backed American media. President Donald Trump is asking for aid from Xi Jinping. Hello, I really fucked up this time. Please help me.
The Chinese have been very close in communicating with the Iranians throughout this entire process. So that could be another key part of this. We're just going to have to see. I am told as well that the president, who in recent days has been contemplating moving back to major combat operations with Iran, more than he has so in weeks, he is not expected to make a decision on how to proceed with the Iran war before departing for China. So a lot at stake here.
And an Iranian spokesman and advisor to the supreme leader apparently trolling the president ahead of that Beijing trip, saying, and I quote here, Mr. Trump never imagined that by taking advantage of Iran's current calm, you will be able to enter Beijing triumphantly. What are you hearing from the White House about how, what is expected from this Beijing trip and how Iran might sort of feed into the narrative at this point?
Well, according to an administration official this weekend, they are going to bring pressure on Beijing when it comes to the war. Of course, they could serve as an effective interlocutor with the Iranians to try to drive them to the table. And a former senior official said that it is almost inevitable that Trump will be asking Xi Jinping for help on next steps. Now, of course, this is likely to overshadow a lot of this trip. Trump, of course, wanted this conflict to be wrapped up already before he went on this trip. He already had to postpone it once due to the war. Another former official said this is...
All right, I've seen enough. Roll the fucking tape!
我在北京
Okay, this is not even the aura edit. God damn it. All right, give me the aura edit. Someone. Yeah, we need the funk edit on this. I'm going to run it back. Yeah. Okay, are you ready? We're going to run it back like we didn't fuck this up the first time, okay?
Likely to overshadow a lot of this trip. Trump, of course, wanted this conflict to be wrapped up already before he went on this trip. He already had to postpone it once due to the war. Another former official said this is likely to suck up a lot of the social capital that he would have wanted to.
All right, I've seen enough. Roll the fucking tape!
我在北京，老天保佑金山银山前途远，老天教唆别管江湖路，老天保佑金山银山前途远，老天教唆别管江湖路，老天保佑金山银山前途远，老天教唆别管江湖路。
This is still, to this day, the most aura-inducing photo that any fucking global leader alive has taken. Keep those attacks on Piker going. We need to get this number up to 100% for El Sahed. Yeah. Where's your aura? I got no aura, man. I'm sitting at home wearing a fucking suit, covering people that don't deserve to shake Xi Jinping's hand from afar, thousands of miles away, as I'm duking it out with some of the dumbest ops of all time, like majority Dems. If this is the best they have, by the way, if this is literally the best they got, if this is their network of propaganda, they're fucked. I can solo these motherfuckers, man. Look, I'm not going to act like I have, tremendous clout or whatever, but I can definitely solo these motherfuckers. This is a real... look what it takes to mimic a fraction of our power moment, you know? You need to get an aura suit from this Chinese tailor next time in Shanghai. My suits are about to be delivered soon, by the way. I got hella Chinese suits coming. I ordered 2 Zhongshan suits, and from the same from the same tailor I got. Wait, what is this? I thought you were there with Xi. It's true, I was. This is a better edit, and look at the amount of likes, Pog. 4.4 million? Me and she have the same suit, by the way. Low key, low Kirk eventually. You know what I mean? Like, you think Donald Trump will get a Zhongshan suit? I kind of want to see him in one. Hold on. I'm gonna retweet that with the "look what it takes to mimic a fraction of our power" edit meme. Hold on. It's going to be weird when Trump just falls asleep in the meeting. He won't. Not with Xi's powerful aura. Okay. All right, let's continue. I'm done with the Chinese aura edit, Chinese century aura edit. This person says, in retrospect, this is definitely one of you guys that sent me your own fucking tweet. In retrospect, I suppose that those neocons who now surprisingly oppose the Iran war, even if they remain generally pro-Israel, were more believers in an American liberal empire than they were Israel-oriented ex-Schmatmanites. I don't know what that means, but no. I guess maybe. It doesn't really matter. I think it's more so about how much you want to lean into Israel in engaging the American empire.
Go in and speak to Xi Jinping about other issues. However, this is, of course, the most pressing one on the table. Now, in the lead up to his departure later today, we have seen the administration imposing sanctions on Chinese entities and individuals for what they say is support for the Iranian regime. China has been helping Iran when it comes to revenue and dual-use items. CNN also reported last month, if you remember, that intelligence was indicating that China was preparing to potentially ship defensive materials to Iran. So there is going to be a lot to discuss here and a lot to watch in terms of how much the president does push Xi Jinping to try to bring Iran to the negotiating table amidst all of these other deals that he is saying he wants to make while he's there.
So what role might China perhaps potentially play in any effort to find an end to this US war with Iran? And how would that work without emboldening China?
The Iranians are always very keen for China to play a larger diplomatic role in the region, and we did see it play some role last month in getting to the ceasefire. China wasn't, of course, the main mediator. Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt, they played that role, but China helped at the very end, I think, to push the Iranians over the line, to convince them to accept the ceasefire. Would they want to go further than that? Can they go further than that now? It's not clear. They have some leverage over Iran as the main customer for its oil exports, but we shouldn't overstate that leverage. I don't think they can convince the regime to do something that Iranian officials see as fundamentally not in their interests right now. And then the Iranians would like to see China step in, perhaps to guarantee this deal, to offer promises that the Americans will respect it. The Americans will not, in the future, launch another round of fighting. It's just hard to see how China does that. They can't offer those sorts of guarantees. And historically, whenever there have been expectations that China will play a larger diplomatic role in the Middle East, it often doesn't meet those expectations. It doesn't want to be a diplomatic power yet in this region. I think it's very happy being an economic power, but leaving much of the mess of Middle Eastern diplomacy to other countries.
And on Sunday, President Trump rejected Tehran's response to his peace proposal, calling it totally unacceptable. Now his administration is imposing these sanctions on 12 companies and individuals that it says are helping aid the sale and shipment of oil from Iran to China. How might this impact Trump's meeting with Xi and any efforts to end the war?
I think it depends on how much further the Americans are willing to press this with China. I mean, as your correspondent mentioned, there haven't been any Chinese banks added to these sanctions lists so far. So if it's just this game of whack-a-mole, which the Americans have been playing for many, many years with China, going after front companies and in some cases going after the so-called teapot refiners, these independent refiners that turn Iranian crude into refined products. If that's all they're going to do, then we've been through this before, and it doesn't really, China will shrug this off and continue buying Iranian oil. If Donald Trump wants to push this further, he wants to start imposing broader sanctions on the Chinese financial sector or other parts of the Chinese economy, that would turn into a real clash at this summit in Beijing. But I suspect he also has other priorities. He wants to talk about trade. He wants to talk about economic deals. I think the last thing he wants to do is have this summit be overshadowed by some sort of sanctions war between.
Dude, what the fuck? Can't China just arrest Trump on suspicion of child abuse based on the Epstein files? Seems kind of like a win-win, no? Check logs. Somewhat serious suggestion. Check logs remains undefeated. Okay? Check logs remains undefeated. It will never, there will never be a moment where I check a fucking log and it turns into a productive take. Incredible, man. Yeah, no, definitely. We should just do, nuclear holocaust by there is one way to trigger nuclear holocaust, and that is this. If China were to turn around and be like, we're arresting the president of the most powerful nation on the planet. Incredible. Thank you, chatter. You did it. Yeah, check logs. Let's fucking shit. I thought that was BB. Okay, true. Well, you can't do that to him too.
The U.S. and China over Iran.
Greg Castro.
Unless you're Zohran Kwame Mamdani, the mayor of New York, the only person more powerful than Benjamin Netanyahu.
From in Riyadh, many thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Joining us now, CNN national security analyst Alex Plitzis with more on this. Let's start about this trip and what this means in the context of this moment with the Iran war. Alex, what role do you think China can play, could play, wants to play in bringing the Iran war to an end?
So China's got some competing interests here in the sense that if there was, greater economic damage or cause at the moment, I think we'd be seeing a more active role from President Xi Jinping. Made it clear from interlocutors in the region that the Iranian foreign minister speaks to his Chinese counterpart on a pretty regular basis. China imports a lot of oil, it does a lot of business, and so it becomes a question of when they intervene and if they do and why. So with the United States being tied up, we've also seen Chinese, precursors for weapons and things of that nature that have been coming in by ship. So it almost favors China to see if they can leave us there as long as possible until there's an economic impact, because we're expending a lot of munitions and things that may be needed for contingency operations in the Pacific.
There's an old saying that only Nixon could go to China, but
Chuck Schumer on President Trump's visit to China. I think the Democrats are going to drop the ball on this China stuff, by the way, which is expected. LeBron is leaving LA to play in Israel like Patrick Beverley did. Why would you do this to me? So close. So close to the fucking to the 4-game sweep that LeBron had to endure. That's crazy. God damn, dude. God damn. Yeah, he's changing his name to LeBron James too. Don't mind me just list sweeping. Okay, shut the fuck up. It was also interesting. One thing I'll say about last night, there were, first of all, very few Oklahoma City fans. Okay. There were very few Oklahoma City fans in the crypto stadium, but virtually all of the OKC fans were Hasanabi heads. It was kind of shocking. Real working class team, it seems. Every single person that came up to me after the game was a Hasanabi head that wanted to take a photo was an OKC fan. No shit, flying/tickets is expensive. Yeah.
Soon they'll say only Trump could sell out to China. Xi Jinping has Donald Trump salivating at the prospect of $1 trillion Chinese investments. In America, that would threaten America's supply chains, threaten economic independence, threaten national security, strengthen China at the expense of American strength. Donald Trump wants a deal with China so badly.
Dude, this is bad politics and bad policy, which is expected from the Democrats as always. It's bad policy because it's objectively good to normalize relations with China instead of fucking posturing like we're going to go and do war with a country that is responsible for 30% of all of our trade. Okay? And it's bad politics because you look like you're at odds with Donald Trump bringing in like $1 trillion investment into the country. What happens if there is a fucking Chinese factory that opens up? The best possible way to communicate here is I don't think Donald Trump is competent enough. He has very clearly made China out to be this ultimate villain. And therefore, I don't think that Donald Trump is going into this deal with any leverage. And he would have had a lot more leverage if we just continued with the JCPOA, for example. If the real fear here was Iran having nukes, which we know wasn't a real fear at all, wasn't a sincere fear at all, according to Donald Trump's very own intelligence community assessment, that waging diplomacy rather than war would have been the best possible outcome. Depressingly, many Democrats are even more hawkish on China than Trump. I mean, this makes sense. This makes sense. The ban of Chinese cars, a demand for ban of Chinese cars is that's not bad politics. Let's be real. That makes sense. If Chinese manufacturing was happening on U.S. soil, it would destroy Ford. It would be over. I mean, Jim Farley has openly admitted that. He went to China. He literally has one of the only Chinese cars that he uses as his daily driver, by the way, which he openly admits is an incredible ride. And he straight up said, I went to China. I saw their capabilities. If Chinese cars come to U.S. soil, it's over for Ford. There will be no more Ford. So yeah, if you care about one of the only remaining American manufacturing sectors that isn't building baby murder machines, the automobile industry, then yeah, you have to do trade protectionism like that. What about Tesla? Tesla can suck my dick. Does the song cover global events anymore? Or is it just American news? We're literally talking about a Beijing summit that's taking place. That is that's number one and number two most powerful countries meeting. You know, it's straight up global events. I mean, virtually everything that America does is global events, but this is the most global of global events.
He could sell out on American manufacturing. He could sell out on chips. He could sell out on Taiwan, which produces many of these chips. He could sell out on AI and on any number of grave issues that will determine who dominates the 21st century. Right now, again, to get his photo in the newspapers and try won't work to raise his very low poll numbers. He's going to sell out to China. We can't let Trump willingly give China our superior American technology or allow him to serve Taiwan to the Chinese Communist Party on a silver platter just so he can get the satisfaction of saying he made a deal.
This is
I just don't think Democrats should ever come across like the more militant party, because it just doesn't give them any benefit whatsoever. The base doesn't care about it. The base doesn't want it. And the broader electorate never will see you as the more militant party. Okay? It's unbelievably stupid. It's the same on immigration. You should never be we're going to be marginally less racist, but still racist party when it comes to immigration. It's so fucking stupid.
Street, really. Tiananmen Square to the left.
Why are you a protectionist? Buddy, I'm a socialist. What do you mean? If you have trade to protect, it's understandable to engage in a little bit of trade protectionism. The fuck? I know. I mean, as a consumer, I would love for a Chinese electric vehicle. Okay? But, you know, as an American citizen who cares about the hundreds of thousands of jobs that would go away if there was no automobile manufacturing, of course I care a little bit about trade protectionism. Yes, why do you hate us? You don't own Ford stock? It doesn't matter. It's not about owning Ford stock. I also have the capacity to purchase whatever platinum healthcare coverage I want to fucking purchase for myself, but I still want Medicare for all, right? It's called empathy.
The Forbidden City to the right. I mean, look, I've lived here sort of 3.5 years, and every time you come here still, you get a sense of how impressive it is.
Yeah, a haunted history, of course. 1989, with student protests here.
Okay, they fucking opened that shit up, dude. Holy shit. Remember when we were going to Tiananmen Square? Remember when we went to Tiananmen Square, chat? It was not that easy to travel across Tiananmen Square. God damn. I wonder if it was because it was like the flag raising ceremony or something. God, it's so beautiful. It's so nice. It's so warm, probably. They're biking. They're living my dream.
Hundreds. Nobody's quite sure of the exact figure.
They probably took a train there or back. Stop! They probably did. Oh, God. The fucking high-speed rail between Beijing and Shanghai. Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Take me back. Fuck. Oh, my God. I'm getting fucking psychic damage right now. Oh, I'm in Los Angeles, California. I'm not in Beijing. I'm not in Beijing on a high-speed rail train route to Shanghai. Oh, eating decadent Chinese meals. Ordering off of my telephone. Oh, my God.
Massacred by the authorities.
That's right, but certainly not what the authorities want this place to be remembered for now. And look up here, this is actually the Great Hall of the People, and it's where the big decisions get made, and crucially this week, it's where the serious meetings will happen between Xi and Trump.
Consequential. Superpowers at the crossroads. Before he left Washington, Donald Trump, he was asked specifically about the impact of Iran on the agenda. He made the point.
Okay, I have FOMO. This is like not going to TwitchCon and seeing all your friends party at TwitchCon from afar. I have FOMO. I'm not even friends with these people, but like the entire press contingency is in China right now. They're all having fun. They're all eating the best Chinese food. Oh my God. I have FOMO. I should have been there. I should have gone there. I should have gone this week. I should have gone. I'm lemon, bro. I'm sour again. I'm sour again. You don't even like TwitchCon? Yeah, but I still like, seeing friends.
China, he said, gets 40% of his oil through the Strait of Hormuz. She would like to see a deal get done.
He's not wrong about the fact that China would like to see the strait reopening. It would. I mean, it's been hit economically by that as much as any other country. But I think Trump's pretty deluded if he thinks that China's just going to hand it to him on a platter.
Yeah, Trump he's weakened by the stalemate in the Strait of Hormuz, isn't he? Belittled, I think. And he comes here asking Xi to lift him out the quicksand.
And be in no doubt, China absolutely love that imagery. It plays for them so well. And they know they have a stronger hand at the negotiating table now. Trade, I suppose, is sort of the easy bit, because they had this big trade war between them, high tariffs, and it was sort of mutually destructive. It didn't really benefit either of them. So I think certainly from the Chinese perspective, look, they'd like tariffs to come down, of course, but I think it was really the unpredictability, the constant changing that really hurt them. So they'll be seeking some predictability.
The White House is framing it as a rebalancing of the relationship with the Chinese, an effort to restore US economic independence. Basically, they're setting up a structure to rein in the Chinese, I think, that doesn't have confrontation at the heart of it in the way it used to.
And look, I think the Chinese will make a few purchases to please Trump. It's quite easy for them to do.
Yeah, everyone knows the game is up, by the way. It's not even, I feel like I'm not even capable of offering unique analysis right now, because the situation is so obvious that, like, you're hearing Western press basically have similar takes to myself. Normally, there's there's usually some significant disagreements, some big differences in the way that Western press approaches the issue of China, and someone like myself will approach the issue of China, and it's kind of glaringly obvious that Trump has no leverage coming into this fucking meeting, and Xi Jinping is going to offer some niceties along the way, maybe some investment, maybe like some factories that they'll open, and that's it. And America is probably going to cave on a lot of stuff with regards to Taiwan. The real unique thing here is normally Western media would find a way to talk about this as like talk about this as though it's like unbelievably sinister, right? Oh, they're going to offer some they're going to offer some benefits, but then they're going to try to do it Chinese style. Ooh, they're going to wage war somehow. And it's interesting that they've just given up.
They'll buy some soybeans, they'll buy some Boeing aircraft, but economically, I think the real biggie between them is the rare earths, right? China dominates it, the US needs it, and I think Trump would like a bit more guarantee that they'll be able to access those crucial materials. And look, it's a guarantee that I don't think China will necessarily give.
Do you hear this? Do you know how insane it is to hear this kind of commentary from Western press? For the last decade, when I said anything similar to this, where I just like any sort of like accurate reporting on what China was intending to do and what America was trying to get out of like whatever deal with China, you would get hit with a fucking beam of, oh my God, you love China so much. You're a China glazer. You're a China dick rider. Fuck you. You hate America. You want America to die. Bro, you were saying this a month ago? Of course I was saying this a month ago, because PBS, Piker Broadcasting News Service, is sponsored by you, the people, and it's always for you, the people. PBS, for tomorrow's news today. PBS, Piker Broadcasting Service, will never run ads. The only way to support the show and to support independent media is by using your Twitch Prime account or by gifting a sub or by subscribing for $6 a month. PBS, for tomorrow's news today, for next month's news today.
So finally, of course, we should talk about Taiwan, because the Chinese certainly will be. And they see a really, really important opportunity with Trump to sort of make some progress.
I think the concern, certainly in Taiwan, is that this is a guy, a president, who does politics on instinct, on self-interest, and, who may, in discussions with Xi, freestyle his way towards some kind of concession or...
Beijing, this trip...
Bro, this is what I mean. Yo, come on. I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous. I miss these fucking massive cities. Trump was asked when departing the White House for Beijing if Xi Jinping was the person who could bring Iran's ceasefire back to life. And he said he'd like whatever Xi can help with. Called Xi a wonderful guy and a friend of mine. And Xi plans to return the favor and visit the U.S.
President Trump is making his way over here to Beijing. This trip to meet with Chinese leader Xi Jinping was already postponed once because of the war in Iran, and Trump was hoping to land here with that conflict behind him, but now it's expected to be one of the biggest issues on the table. Trump wants Xi Jinping to use his leverage to convince Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. But what I'm told from experts is that while China wants this war to end, they don't want to get too deeply involved. They really see this issue as America's problem to solve. And Beijing can't afford to be patient here. They can wait this out because they've built enough energy reserves. What Beijing actually wants from this meeting, I'm told, is a longer tariff truce, as well as fewer restrictions on advanced technology exports and easier access to U.S. investments. Now, President Trump, for his part, he also wants to walk away from this with some tangible wins he can take home. He wants trade deals. He wants China to commit to buying U.S. planes, agriculture, and energy. Artificial intelligence talks are also expected to be on the table. Plus, President Trump is going to be traveling here with more than a dozen CEOs, including Elon Musk and Tim Cook, also top executives from Meta, Visa, and Goldman. That tells you just how much is riding on this trip.
What is this? Access to Chinese citizenship would be like gender affirming care for autistics. What the fuck? That's so stupid. Oh. That's crazy. Truk. Oh, man. Wait, the Chinese think American eats babies? Yeah. New York Times reporting on classified U.S. intelligence assessments of Iranian missile capacity reiterates that they've maintained 70% of their missiles and launchers, but adds that 90% of their underground storage and launch facilities are also still active. Once again, PBS for Tomorrow's News Today, Piker Broadcasting Service. This is why they pay me the big bucks, $6 at a time. But I think y'all know we've been reporting on this. We've been making this assessment without the CIA for basically the last 2 months. Oh my God. How could this have happened? Iran has designed its missile program with the acknowledgement of not being able to protect its airspace and relied on hardened underground missile cities to compensate. U.S. and Israeli attacks apparently disabled the entrances of some of these facilities and hit surface buildings. Dude, literally, this is how you have a competitive edge. This is how you have a competitive edge in these conversations with those who you talk to. I've been telling you this for months. Okay? I've been telling you this for months. Okay? U.S. and Israeli attacks apparently disabled the entrances of some of these facilities and hit surface buildings, but as many observed at the time, the attacks were failing to actually penetrate the underground facilities where the operations were carried out and missiles were kept in storage. Most problematically, for a renewed campaign, the missile complexes near Hormuz are almost all still active according to the assessment. If the U.S. initial assessment is accurate, it also explains why Iran was able to maintain a steady rate of missile fire until the end of the war. Oh my God. Oh my God. Look at that. Look at that. Who could have foreseen this? Who could have looked at the Iranian missile strikes that kept up in spite of the American and Israeli bombing campaigns? I think they really believe that temporarily suppressing Iranian missile fires, caving in tunnel entrances, and whacking cheap missile launchers would be enough because Iran would fold after a few days. Yeah. Yeah, they did. Because they're fucking stupid. Wait, Trump was lying? We already knew that Trump was lying. That's elementary. That's like a novice take, okay? Yes, of course Trump was lying. That's all he does. And it's not even necessarily a lie, I guess. He's just stupid, okay? He doesn't know shit. I don't even know if he knows what he's saying. What Trump is saying is irrelevant. It's immaterial. What's important is whether or not Iran was able to keep up a steady pace of attacks. Okay? That's how you can make that assessment. I told you what their strike capabilities look like, what the Iranian strike capabilities look like. This is important to understand how I was conducting this analysis, okay? Because you can do this as well. You can do this on your own. It's not like I have the capacity to see what was going on in the ground. We had very limited knowledge, right? But what you can do in this situation, when you're monitoring the situation, is through open source intelligence, look at what the Iranian TLs look like, how easy they are to fabricate, how easy they are to repair, and how cost effective it is for Iran to sometimes even deploy single launchers off the backs of pickup trucks and then release them and wait for some return fire from American Air Force or the Israeli Air Force. And if they don't actually get struck in 15 minutes, they just go back into those K trucks and bring them back inside into their cave systems. And I told you over and over again that they had no capacity, even with bunker busters, to truly penetrate these facilities. And therefore, all they could do is basically close up the mouths of these caves. But lo and behold, what was on the inside of those caves, inside of these complex tunnel systems? Bulldozers that they could use to dig themselves out of those tunnel systems. And I told you over and over again that they were not capable of actually hitting the silos, okay? Because the most powerful thing to stop missiles still to this day is dirt, okay? It's earth. That's it. And they use their topography to their advantage. That's why they built those cave systems and those tunnels and those underground missile silos inside of these fucking mountains, okay? Raw earth and dirt. That's what stops missiles better than anything else.
Appeasement and any micro shift in the US position resets the baseline for future discussions.
And it would have massive consequences in this region. It's exactly what China wants. Even the fact that this summit is happening is really great for the Chinese. It is a perfect chance to tell the world, hey, look, we're grown-ups, we're the stable superpower, and we can handle this all-important relationship and this all-important president.
China is on the march.
The United States and China, so much about the world we live in, rides on their relationship.
We've always had a great relationship.
How they compete, how they come together, shapes the global order. It will do for generations to come.
Theirs is a relationship defined by competition, both racing to be the biggest and the best, economically, technologically, militarily. But under Donald Trump, this is a relationship that has been far from smooth.
China. China, we're speaking to China.
There have been tariffs and trade wars.
China, first row.
Trump meets Xi is the next round of Who's the Daddy, in a game that neither.
Who's the daddy? Oh, how do you have all this knowledge? I don't know. I'm a curious person and I download information into my brain every single fucking day, every waking moment. I read a lot. I think a lot. You can too. It's not that unique. I don't have any unique capabilities. I don't have profound insight. I'm not a particularly intelligent person. I don't have any additional skills. Okay? I'm a very average person. But yeah, as I was saying, it's like all this stuff is foreseeable. That's the reason we foresaw it. Okay? I'm a regular ass dude. I think one of the most significant skills that I have, or rather one of the biggest advantages that I have, is unlike many of my peers, I don't have the same kind of automatic predisposition towards Western chauvinism and, American imperialism, this idea that America is a force for good. I can look at the oppositional forces. I can look at foreign adversaries, not as foreign adversaries, but as, nation states that have the same exact interest that we do, an interest in maintaining their sovereignty, right? Add to that the immortal science of Marxist-Leninism and the analysis born out of dialectical materialism, and you can make, you have tremendous predictive power. Yes, just like Professor Jiang. Game theory. The U.S. intelligence assessment is accurate. It also explains why Iran was able to maintain a steady rate of missile fire until the end of the war, and also suggested U.S. and Israel simply wasted a lot of top-tier standoff munitions that were created and stockpiled specifically for peer and near-peer adversaries. Not a fucking middle power. Not for Iran, but for Russia and for China. That's what the fucking craziest part about this is, that they expended their munitions that they had for some kind of future conflict with Russia or China. And the only reason why they did that is because the Iranian anti-air defense systems were more competent than they previously thought. This is another very important aspect of this that I don't see too much in the analysis. If this is correct, it would also explain why there was a sharp pivot towards counter-value attacks against Iranian civilian targets like universities, bridges, and power stations in the last days of the campaign, even though missile fire had not been suppressed. It may have just been impossible with the resources and conditions at hand, which necessitated Trump's threat to destroy Iranian civilization, which ultimately came right before the ceasefire. That's exactly what happened. That's also exactly what I said. I told you the reason why they're moving to civilian targets, if you remember my analysis from back then, I told you very clearly, okay, that the reason why they're moving to civilian targets is because they cannot achieve their military objectives by striking missile silos. If you recall, that's why I told you. They were like, fuck it, we ball. We can't actually successfully attrit their strike capabilities, so we're moving to apply pressure by doing, a little bit of ethnic cleansing, a little bit of genocide, just a little baby bit, by doing some war crimes, doing some terrorism. We destroyed their nuclear program, says Nathan J. Robinson. Okay, fine, we didn't destroy it, but we eliminated the regime. Okay, fine, we didn't eliminate it, but we destroyed all their missile launchers. Okay, fine, we didn't do that either. But hey, we did waste $30 billion and kill dozens of schoolgirls. Yeah, in your analysis, you're forgetting about the fact that a bunch of the targets Trump blew up were actually just inflatable heated dummies from China. Helium is one of the valuable resources restricted by the Strait. Those inflatables are super high value. Okay, that's funny. But yeah, for those of you who are maybe just now tuning in and you're like, oh, I have this opinion of you, Hassan. Getting my food. Thank you. For those of you who are just now tuning in, when you're like, oh, Hassan, you have a lot of fucking haters. Like, if you get your information from, drama slop tubers on the internet, you're not going to have a decent understanding of what the fuck's going on in the world. Okay? There's a reason why I interview actual analysts, college professors and the like, rather than get my fucking notes from drama slop tubers. Okay? Those people don't have a decent understanding of the world at all. They don't know what the fuck's going on in front of them. So stop relying on dumb fuck drama tubers who take every important issue that's happening around the world and turn it into Hassan bad somehow. Okay? It's very frustrating that I have to deal with so many stupids when I'm doing this coverage in the background, acting as though they have a profound grasp on all of this shit. And yes, that even includes more competent, more skilled orators like Sexpestany, who doesn't have a fraction of the analytical skills here. And I will say that sincerely. He only has the capacity to present himself as a knowledgeable person to stupid people. Okay? He's arrogant, he's confident, but he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. All he does is engage in ad hoc and after the fact rationalizations. Not even rationalizations necessarily, but it's just talking points. L crash out? Sure. Yeah, ad hoc and post hoc rationalizations. Look at the Chinese media and their coverage on this trip in a second. Iran still has missile manufacturing capabilities in the form of underground missile cities reinforced with... Yes, I know. We've talked about that as well. They still have their productive capacity as well. Trump the nation builder. It's true. For China.
Can afford to lose.
So, headed into this historic summit, who has the upper hand? Who should the world look to for global leadership? Who is the greatest superpower? I'm Helen Ann Smith, Sky News' Asia correspondent in China.
And I'm James Matthews, US correspondent in Washington, D.C.
So, there's this extremely popular phrase doing the rounds on Chinese social media at the moment. The phrase is 川建国. It literally translates as Trump,
the nation builder.
So 川建国.
你们都以为川建国发起关税战，特朗普起的名字真的恰如其分，川建国。
But here's the catch. It doesn't mean that Trump is building up his own nation. What it implies is that his actions are allowing China to increase its national standing. The Chinese people are trolling Donald Trump big time. But do they have a point?
Piker Broadcasting Service. Oh my
big
God.
News over there.
Fuck it. I'm going to glaze myself again. Piker Broadcasting Service. We've been saying this for literally the past 2 years. For the past 2 years. Western media is now saying this. It's incredible. Oh my God.
What about Xi Jinping over here? Do you know the name of the leader of China?
No, I don't. Xi Jinping? I know it's like Xiaoping, I believe.
Chai Ping, something like that.
I don't think I could. I'm sorry, I'm not that involved in politics.
Xi Jinping?
Yeah.
Xi Jinping? No.
This is the Department of Labor in Washington, D.C., now with a big poster of Donald Trump on the front. Look at the size of it. It has a dear leader feel. It could almost be China. Trump changed the face of trade with China. He started a trade war in his first term. Businessman Trump didn't see the business sense in a massive trade deficit. Donald Trump slapped tariffs on Beijing, and they got bigger. His second term saw Liberation Day, tariffs for all, China in particular.
My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day. China, first row.
This was a president who wanted to reassert economic dominance. It didn't necessarily work out.
The problem for Trump is that this time, China decided it wasn't going to take it lying down. The economy here is anchored largely in the manufacture of goods, sold locally, yes, in places like this, but also shipped en masse to places like America. But despite that reliance, the judgment was that the economy was resilient enough to fight back. China could match strength with strength.
And so a tit-for-tat escalation followed, which saw tariffs at their height of over 125%.
China's retaliation squeezed Donald Trump. So did the US Supreme Court when it skewered his tariff policy. Today, US-China tariffs are down on both sides. America has felt the pain of a trade war, and Trump isn't delivering on.
How many people came to me during Liberation Day? How many hogs came in here and tried to say, oh, yeah, this is based. Oh, Hassan, you're just pro-China. You don't understand. Sometimes I think about this where it's like, I had to duke it out with fucking Asmongold fans while I was literally saying exactly what was going to happen, which now, you know, Western press is also covering.
Promises to bring down prices. That's not just a China thing, but China is a big factor.
But China has a trump card, if you like, and it's something based far away from commercial centres like this. China is almost totally dominant in the rare earth element industry. These are the vital components used to make everything from smartphones to cars, from AI technology to cutting-edge weaponry. They had the US over a barrel, and they knew it, and they didn't flinch turning off the taps to inflict pain and secure leverage. It is an ace card. They're probably not yet done playing. The Bund in Shanghai is one of the best places to come if you want to understand just how far China's economy has come. On the one side, European built at a time of weakness and colonial domination, and on the other, this glassy tribute to China's modern, ultra-rapid economic growth. But in no doubt, Trump's trade war has caused real pain here. The economy is reliant on exports, and many of them were to the US. And then there are other problems: debt, deflation, a limping property market, high youth unemployment. But interestingly,
the limping property market is irrelevant. It's immaterial. It doesn't matter. But the only real problem that they point to here is actually youth unemployment. That is a genuine issue. And this also speaks to one of China's, I would say, most interesting aspects of governance. They don't do any, like, they do very little welfare, right? Like, they don't have any interest in welfare whatsoever. And they have a lot of youth unemployment right now. And people are just like moving back into their smaller towns with no real job prospects whatsoever. So that is a huge issue. Yeah, they think idle hands are the devil's play is logic. Yes. No, the U.S. is not worse. That's how little welfare plays a role in Chinese governance. There's a lot of gig economy shit.
none of this necessarily weakens Xi Jinping's hand at the negotiating table. China is pursuing new markets, and it has a far higher tolerance for pain. Rising prices won't affect him at the ballot box.
America imports far more from China than it exports, more than $400 billion compared to $100 billion. Donald Trump will attempt a rebalancing act when he goes to Beijing. But rolling back decades of outsourcing and reliance on China isn't straightforward. Sanctions are a blunt instrument. Two can play that game and both can lose. The two countries have learnt that much. Expect Donald Trump to finesse his strategy. The Americans travel to Beijing with a longer game in mind, less confrontational than they've been in the past. There's a reason they call the occupant of the White House the leader of the free world. In the West, US leadership has preserved life as we've known it for the past 80 years. With Donald Trump, not so much. He's broken the mold, fractured old alliances. He's threatened to pull out of NATO and even threatened to annex Greenland, a place that falls under NATO's umbrella. This is an erratic, unpredictable president. Donald Trump has undermined old certainties and cast a vision of a different global order, all the while cozying up to the world's dictators. He does so with an eye on China. He himself styled the phrase Dunroe Doctrine. It asserts US dominance over the Western Hemisphere, exerting American strength.
Dude, it is kind of funny when they're covering this stuff. On the one hand, they're like, well, you know, China has some problems too, but also they don't have like a normal election system, obviously, in the same way that we do in the United States of America. So like that's a little bit advantageous when you think about it. And it's like they are actively trying to make it seem like there is any sort of equivalence, any sort of parity in who is suffering between these two adversaries. And they just cannot, because especially when it comes to foreign policy maneuvers, foreign policy engineering, and global stability, there is no equivalence between China and Trump. China straight up has been able to present themselves as a real successor of Western liberalism and the grand design for international trade, as opposed to Donald Trump, who is only representing chaos in the global stage. It's so funny. They're like, yeah, Trump tried to invade Greenland. Also, well, China's just kind of looking at China's just trying to look at the situation and I guess benefiting from all this chaos
in that part of the world and opposing Chinese influence.
This hotel has a really important place in the history of the US-China relationship. It was the place where, in 1972, President Nixon came. He met with the then Chinese Premier Zhou Enlai, and they signed what's known as the Shanghai Communique. It was, in essence, the starting point of their modern geopolitical relationship. And it marked a moment where China was coming out of a period of international isolation. How strikingly different things are today.
By the way, that's why they fucking love Nixon and also Kissinger in China. The only country where it's totally valid to actually put respect on Henry Kissinger's name is China, because, they are the reason why the UN got the PRC and flipped the script on ROC, Republic of China, and recognized PRC as the true China, which was already the case. But I wonder how long America could have held out without that recognition. Like, I wonder how long it would have taken, or how different things could have been if Nixon didn't do that. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if China would look like, or foreign policy, or like Chinese foreign policy would resemble North Korea foreign policy.
Trump disrupts. China casts itself as the great convener, the grown-up in the room. And it's been seeking allegiances that might rebalance a global order that it has long seen as too Western-centric, from vast investments in the global south to new networks and summits with it at the core. China pitches itself as an unjudgmental friend to nations shunned by the West, as a predictable, stable partner to nations who might feel let down by the states. And crucially, it's been working.
But does more heft in the world mean more heft with Donald Trump? And what do people here think?
Who do you think is the stronger leader going into their meeting next week, Xi Jinping or Donald Trump?
那我说习近平吧。
为什么？
为什么？
因为他是我们中国的领导人。Do you think to have Donald Trump as the president of the United States, do you think that makes the world less safe or more safe?
这个战争是他发起的吧？你说呢？
Maybe a crazy man.
A crazy man.
现在我认为中国的智库应该也是很强大的，会对他有办法的，会对他有办法的。
The United States has the...
They did a study on this. They asked Chinese citizens. There was a poll that just recently came out where they were like, which military is more powerful according to your estimation? And I think Chinese citizens overwhelmingly said America's military is more powerful, but like, which economy is more powerful? The Chinese citizens were like, the Chinese economy is more powerful. Like, which leader has more, which leader is looking better in the global stage? I think they said like it was the Chinese leader.
World's most powerful military, tried and tested through time. This is a memorial in Washington to veterans of the Korean War. Its power is clear to see in Iran, but so is America's vulnerability. Military intervention hasn't given Donald Trump what he wants, neither has diplomacy, not yet at least. It questions his judgment, his strategic competence. It's not a good look for the US president as he arrives in Beijing. Neither is America's request to the Chinese to lean on its friends in Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. In the constantly shifting power dynamic between Washington and Beijing, China saving the day isn't the shift that Donald Trump had scripted.
Trump's military adventures also give China the opportunity to push the stable superpower narrative, but it does shed light on China.
I'm sorry, is that a narrative or is that just abject reality? At some point, we got to come to terms with that, right? Because, like, you're not American, you're fucking British. From your perspective, I know the immediate inclination is like, we got to fucking dick ride America, but
His reluctance to intervene militarily. It did not rush to the aid of either Iran or Venezuela, even though both were good friends. Over recent years, China has poured billions into modernizing and expanding its military. It might now be the biggest in the world, but it's not the most capable, and it's certainly not the most experienced. The modern PLA have actually never officially fought a war. Monuments to the war dead here remember those who fought many decades ago. Remember too, China doesn't mind one bit the US being distracted and depleted elsewhere. It has its eyes on Taiwan, the self-governing democracy it has sworn to retake by force.
oh my God. This lady is definitely a liberal. China should deport her. Okay, shut the fuck up, dude. Don't behave like Chinese hogs. Okay, you can't be a fucking right-winger for China. Okay, that's crazy. Deport her. You know what you behave like when you do that? It's going to hurt to hear this, but you sound like Asmongold fans who are European who LARP as MAGA. I know it hurts to have a mirror reflected back at you, but it's kind of true. Now, obviously, the counter here is, well, you know, some dicks are worth riding, right? LeBron James. But, you know,
if necessary. US intervention is probably the only thing that could stop it, and it is perhaps the greatest challenge between them.
Could Taiwan count on Donald Trump to come to its defense? Some aren't so sure. On the face of it, his position is the same as his predecessors, strategic ambiguity. But unlike presidents before him, who've made it...
Bro. America can't even defend its own bases in the Strait of Hormuz, in the Gulf of Persia, in the Persian Gulf. What makes you think they are going to be able to militarily defend Taiwan? I'm sorry. They literally pulled out the THAAD missile launchers from Korea and panic shipped them to Israel. What are we talking about? It's over. It's done. It's done. What we need to do now is recognize that it's done and try to chart a different path forward, one that doesn't engage our major foreign adversary militarily, but one that actually tries to create stability in the world.
clear they would come to Taiwan's defense if China attacked. Donald Trump's public statements have left room for doubt.
Propaganda has been so central to the growth and the survival of the Chinese Communist Party.
Oh my God. Wait, don't tell me. They have a rose-colored view of their complex history. What's next? Do they also do that in their museums? What? You're telling me for the first time, China, the only country that does this. Wow. I can't believe it. Good thing we don't do that. Oh. Yeah, we have slavers carved in the mountains that were native grounds.
Party, and this museum documents.
Tell the joke, Hassan, a CIA agent and a KGB agent get together in a Berlin cafe. They're communicating for the first time. The CIA agent tells the KGB agent, "Hey, I saw your latest communiques. I must say, that's some excellent propaganda." The KGB agent turns around and says, "Thank you." Right back at you. You also have some excellent propaganda. CIA agent says, "What propaganda?" End joke.